All right, friends, let's just breathe together as we come into this sermon time that we will share. This past week, one of the things that I've been carrying with me was a podcast that I had a chance to listen to. It was with Kate Bowler on her podcast, Everything Happens. Who's a fan, right? She was interviewing Mia Songbird, and it was a conversation about belonging and about community. And it so made me think of y'all, of us. You see, they spoke of how community and belonging, they just don't happen on their own. And it isn't the work of someone in charge like making it happen either, right? The work of belonging takes all of us, which we need to hold as true. Like right now in this global moment of a pandemic and in the midst of the Black Lives Matter movement, as Mia writes, she says, all the horrors we face today will only be solved if we understand that we are all in this together. Let me say it again. All the horrors we face today will only be solved if we understand that we are all in this together. Man, just let that just land on your spirit. We're all in this together. Like that, holding that, that's the way forward. Ultimately, what she's saying is how community is a verb. Friends, today, this Sunday, is about community as a verb. We got some stuff to do today, and there are so many ways in which community is a verb, but the particular actions we do today are that of our annual meeting, this once-a-year time where we come together. And it'll be after worship today. We'll have a Zoom call together, and my hope is that this sermon time is for us to see this work that we do today as part of our community, doing community together, community as a verb. The work of belonging that takes all of us. And to see even this voting that we do as one of the myriad ways that we are connected to and live out the love and the story of God. So this will be a different kind of sermon time together today, okay? And if you're a first-time guest, come back again. This is a different kind of time today. But I just thank you for your openness to this. And I'm so grateful that we get to belong to each other and therefore do this work together. And coming at it, I'm feeling emotional as I stand in this empty sanctuary, wishing that you were here. So I feel very aware of the importance of belonging and community as we get at this, okay? Okay, so here we go. So let's get oriented in our community verbing today, okay? So Salt House is an ELCA congregation, right? We're part of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Though you do not have to identify as Lutheran or feel like that's who you are, just like everything else at Salt House, there are no labels, there's no boxes to check, particular beliefs that you need to subscribe to. Y'all are welcome, period. But we are part of a denomination, and so we have certain accountabilities and structure that we are held to. So leading up to June every year, we do the business and kind of the nonprofit side of being church, preparing for the new fiscal year that begins July 1st, which is this week, right? So our staff and our council, our finance team, our nominating team, we've all been busy recruiting leaders for our church council and our nominating team and prayerfully strategizing about our finances and how we want to use the resources that we have. So hopefully you've done your work too to be ready for today. We've had a lot of messaging out about it. We put the budget out there, stuff about membership. We are transparent really about all of it. And we've said you can go to salthousechurch.org/meeting just to see all of what you need for today's meeting. But what we will do in our meeting later is two primary things. One, we will vote on our budget for fiscal year 21. And as we've named in the past few weeks, we are keeping our same staffing structure that we have right now for another year, which stretches our budget beyond our current level of giving, which we do with the hope that our giving will grow to support this vital work that our staff does in leading us in engaging homelessness, ministry with families, radical welcome, like all the things. So we're asking for y'all to say yes to growing our giving this year. This is the hope within that our contract that we have with Pastor Ryan can become a full call to pastor next year or soon after that. So we're just growing that capacity to expand what we do, right? This aligns with our identity as being radically generous, right? With what our generous God has given us, outrageously generous. So thank you for everyone who attended our budget forum Zoom call, those who have given feedback, asked questions, and helped this budget to take form. With special thanks to Council Treasurer Greg Fenich, our staff, our council, and our finance team for their vision and work on this as we use what we have to be salt and light in the world. So that's the first thing we'll do. The second piece for our meeting today is electing our leadership. We'll be electing our nominating team. This team is tasked with prayerfully seeking out the leaders that we'll then have next year, so we get them in place to do that work next year. And they are Gila Fine, Brianna Untie, Sean Mobley, and Jeannie Goodrich. And then the other folks we'll vote for today are our church council. So let me just say a little bit about what the church council is and why we should all know them, okay? So our church council's role is foremost a legal role. A council or like a board of directors, like we need this. It's mandatory for us to function as a nonprofit in Washington state and to be recognized within the ELCA. So this team holds fiduciary responsibility on our behalf, watching the managing of our finances and staffing and our property. So their primary responsibility is to watch the many facets of our well-being from that nonprofit business side of things. And beyond the legal role, this team naturally keeps an eye on our community's spiritual well-being too, right? They are a sounding board and a team of encouragers for our staff as we collaborate together. And to be clear, our church council is vital. They are legally necessary, but they are just one team of the many teams and volunteers that we need here at Salt House in order for us to keep becoming who we are together. We are who we are today because from day one, people have shown up and brought who they are and collaborated to make beautiful things happen. So we need you, and we'll need you moving forward to show up in creative ways as we look at what it means to navigate life together while physically distanced. So we still need you. And so today, for the next few minutes, we're going to take time to meet each of our council candidates through a short video from each of them. And to be clear, no one is running against anyone else, okay? So our Constitution designates that the nominating team is to put together a slate of candidates that has balance, whose various gifts and experiences really provide a whole picture for a team that we would hope for. So it's not that the candidates are like running against each other. It's not politics and like an election in that sense, like we have enough of that in our world right now. So one person is nominated for each role on the ballot, okay? Now, before we get to our new team, it's important to take a moment to acknowledge those who are also leaving our current church council. So we have two folks who are stepping off. That's Gila Fine stepping down, having served as our president this year and vice president the previous year, and Todd McClure steps down as our secretary for these past 2 years. And they have been outstanding. And I'm going to take a moment to just call them out and speak to them directly, which is what I would do if they were able to be here and you were able to be here and we're standing, they'd stand up here with me and I'd say these words to them under normal circumstances, but these are not normal circumstances. But I still want to offer a word of thanks and put them in the hot seat a little bit. So that's what we're going to do, and y'all get to listen in. So I had a chance to stop by and do a social distance hello with both of them this week. So first to you, Todd. Todd, I thank God for your vulnerability in sharing the questions you have in your faith that are so deeply rooted in your love of Jesus and your love for this world. I thank God for how you put this faith of yours into action by rocking the details of our council meeting minutes every month, and in how you stepped into an important role as our council liaison with our property and grounds team, which meant that in the transition that we had this past fall when we were without a church administrator, you, Todd, were our primary person with our renters, with our facilities issues. You seriously stepped up. So thank you for all of this. Thank you for your steadfastness and for more, and how you have lived faithfully on council. I will miss you on this team. So thank you, Todd. And for Gila, you were the president, the leader that we needed right now in this moment for this past year. So thank you. I give thanks to God for how you empowered our council team to dream of what was possible for our church and to actually activate each of us in our own ways to move us into those dreams. Not many people saw it, but you worked your tail off for this community, and we are forever changed by it for the better. Gila, your leadership lives on as your fingerprints are all over us as a community, fingerprints that have molded us for a wider reach of love and inclusion, for radical welcome, fingerprints of a strong staff that we're investing in to lead us. I've delighted in collaborating with you, and I'm so sad to see this season end with you. So thank you, my dear friend. So to mark this transition, I had the chance to drop off a gift to Todd and Gila this week. They both get a Himalayan salt lamp. What? So Gila and Todd, you have been salt and light among us as part of our church council. May this little lamp remind you of who you are as salt and light, God's embodied love in the world, including here at Salt House. So thank you for your service on church council. It was such a fun ride together. We thank God for you. And now, friends, it's time to meet our church council for fiscal year 21. And again, as we begin to meet our council folks today, don't go thinking, okay, great, I'm glad they got it all covered. That's great, go with it, guys. No, see these guys as a team that's setting the pace for all of us, okay? Okay. So first we'll hear from our returning folks, Ann Anderson, Greg Fenich, Linnea Anderson, Macy Svansig. Then we'll meet our new folks, Dave Trice, Don Dolabowski, and Dave Dowling. I know, did you hear all those D's in there? So good, right? So we asked them to share a quote or a passage from a book that is speaking to them in their faith these days, as well as just some basic info about themselves so we can start to get to know them. So just let yourself receive this. Chew on the good quotes and words that we're going to hear. Let it speak to your heart and enjoy this time as we get to know our church council candidates.
This is a quote by Arthur Ashe, the only Black man to win the singles tennis title at Wimbledon. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. I imagine he was talking about both tennis and life when he said this. This is my simple hope in serving as church council president this year. I'm excited to take on this role, but it is also daunting in light of what is ahead. We will have a big year with our path toward reopening, our church to meet in person with one another, our next door neighbors at the new 100-bed shelter moving in August, and how we as a community work to further our core values in addressing what is happening in our country, especially with racism. I told my Salt House story a couple of months ago. I shared about the grief I've experienced in my own life and in my job as a palliative care nurse, especially in light of COVID-19. Since then, life has gotten even harder. I imagine you all are feeling that way too with the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others. I'm in an ally group at work where we meet to discuss how to better support our coworkers of color. I have come to the realization that the more I learn about racism and what people of color face every day, how my work around this will never be done. Yet, in the midst of this, I have many glimmers of joy too. I am so thankful to have a husband who is an elementary school librarian who is involved in the equity group at his school, Rosa Parks Elementary, and has a passion for learning about racism and understanding our white privilege. We have 4 healthy grown kids, one of whom is getting married in our garden in August. My sisters and I gave our 93-year-old mother her first iPad for her birthday last weekend so we can FaceTime with her. My raspberries that are behind me will start producing delicious berries soon. These things make me want to celebrate what is good in this time where there is so much that is not good. But we also must not get complacent in doing what is most important, to love one another.
Hello, Salt House family and friends. My name is Greg Fenich, and I'm the treasurer at Salt House. My journey to Salt House started on Good Friday in 2016, and I am so thankful to have found a church home where, as a gay person, I can worship with a sense of belonging. So, whether you're a member or a guest at Salt House, always remember that you're welcome here. A little bit about me. I'm a Washington native, having grown up in the small town of Ephrata, and I'm a proud WSU graduate. Go Cougs. I met my husband Parker in Seattle, and we've been together since 1989. We were thrilled to have Pastor Sara officiate and Jason provide music at our wedding ceremony in 2016. We live in Kirkland with our rescue dog Kavik, who we adopted while living in Tokyo. I'm currently working at Microsoft, where I've been there since 2002, joining them when we lived in Japan. And I'm so proud to work for a company that matches gifts to our community initiatives funds, which enables Salt House the opportunity to serve the homeless community. These past months have been trying in so many ways, and we don't know what to expect. In times like this, it could just be plain tiring. And that's when I turn to one of my favorite Bible verses, Isaiah 40:31. This will be from the New International Version. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. So in closing, I want to thank you for all of your outrageous generosity to Salt House and for living generous lives, as well as for your support for me and the Finance Committee serving all of you. So thank you.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Barack Obama. Hi, I'm Linnea Anderson, and I'm currently a member of the Salt House Council as a member at large. A little bit about me: I am a twin, born, raised here in Kirkland, Washington. I work for Seattle Children's Hospital as a senior audiovisual technician. In the past few months, I've become the go-to support person for Zoom, FaceTime, WebEx, Microsoft Teams, pretty much any type of video conferencing for my friends and family. Lots of virtual happy hours. You might recognize me from the sound booth pressing all of the buttons when we're having in-person services. I'm now assisting with live streaming with even more buttons to press. What brings me back to Salt House every week is the community and the people. Everyone is very welcoming, and it's very fun to share my faith journey with. During this weird and difficult time, it is up to us to make a change and grow together. I look forward to this next year in this virtual world of Salt House and what we can all bring together to the community.
Hello, Salt House. I'm Macy Zwanzig. I've been on council this past year as the vice president, and now I'm hoping to fill the position for being on council with a at-large title, whatever that means. And thinking about a verse to share, I feel like this verse has constantly been in my heart and mind for a long time. Be still and know that I am God, from Psalm 46. And I think as a mother, that's sort of a mantra almost for me. But really in this time of so many crises, that verse has felt really important to me. A little bit about me: I'm a high school teacher. I teach environmental science and I teach biology at Redmond High School, and I live in Redmond. My husband Peter is on Young Life staff here in Redmond, so it's a nice crossover of his life and my life kind of blending in this community and working to serve this community. And then I have two daughters, Delphine, she's 5, and Sylvia, who is 2. So life is full and busy. Even in quarantine, life feels very full and very busy. Lots of tag teaming between Peter and I. And a reason that I chose Salt House, I think it really put at the forefront, and I think Sara and Jason and Ryan work really hard to keep political things at the forefront and tying them into how Jesus followers should respond to those things. And that really drew me in, because I felt like the church that I was attending before just didn't really address those things in a meaningful way, and it feels so integral to faith and spirituality from my perspective. So that's why I'm here, and I'm happy to serve on council again.
My name is Dave Trice. My favorite quote, what means the most to me right now, is Richard Rohr once said, if everybody doesn't belong, then no one belongs. And Salt House is really the living embodiment of that. Radical inclusion is what I believe in, and I want to advance that forward. Just a couple things about me. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Mary Ann. We have a couple of adult kids. When two beautiful grandchildren, one actually staying with us now. We are just blessed to be part of this community. That's it.
Good morning, Salt House. My name is Dawn Dolowski, and I will be taking on the role of the Church Council Secretary for this upcoming term. If you have small children, then you know me from the nursery. I was the nursery lead from July of 2018 right up until we had to shut things down in March 2020. And while it's been an honor to take care of your little ones so that you can enjoy a peaceful worship experience, I am really excited about this opportunity to serve Salt House in a new way where I get to work with grown-ups. If you don't have small children, then I may be a new face for you, especially if you are newer to Salt House. Like I said, I've been in the nursery for the past couple of years. You may, however, know my older daughter, Ellie, who is about 10 pounds of personality in a 5-pound bag, and will be taking over the welcome team just as soon as she figures out that that is a thing that she can do. So a bit about me. I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan in the Catholic Church. I went to college in Cleveland, Ohio, where I got an undergraduate degree in computer science. And then I bounced around the Midwest for a bit and finally moved out to Seattle in 2008. I found Salt House in the summer of 2016. I was looking for a church at that time, and I wanted to be something that was incredibly inclusive and that reflected my own personal values. I was also more community focused than other churches I had previously attended. I had been in places with small congregations and they just felt kind of empty. When I came to Salt House, the first thing I noticed was, even though it was a small group, it was just very vibrant and active, and there was an amazing feeling of presence that I had really been missing in church for a long, long time. It's been a pleasure to be part of the Salt House community, and they've been such a great part of my own family's life for the past several years, and I'm looking forward to helping it continue to grow. Thank you.
Hi Salt House, I'm Dave Dowling. It's been quite a week as I reflect on my faith and what's going on in the world right now. It feels like a lot. It is admittedly pretty overwhelming. As part of my learning and action to become a better ally, I recently watched the movie Just Mercy. It's based on a book by Brian Stevenson. And there's a quote from that that really resonates with me and kind of my faith right now that I want to share with you. You can't understand most of the important things from a distance. You have to get close. You can't understand most of the important things from a distance. You have to get close. So when I think about all of the problems with the world and just questioning why around injustice, discrimination, oppression, so many things, I can tend to kind of pull back. And this is just a reminder to stay centered and know that God is with me and God is with all of us. A little bit more about myself. So I'm a Washington native. I grew up in Kirkland, graduated from the University of Washington. I played collegiate and professional baseball, so I was a pitcher, and I currently work in university recruiting at Microsoft. My wife, Heidi, there's a family there, my college sweetheart. We've been married for 13 years, and we have 3 amazing girls, Avery, Lila, and Reese. For fun, we do a lot of different things. We play, we dance. We're really passionate around roasting coffee. We like to travel, especially to Disneyland. And then if time permitting, doing DIY house projects. In terms of Salt House, so we first set foot in Salt House about 2.5 years ago. And we had visited and been members of a lot of different churches. And there was something that was just different. We were able to just show up, feel welcome, be ourselves. This might sound a little silly, but I didn't feel like I had to cover a cry of our kids. People laughed and said God was speaking through Lila, who would be crying up a storm. And from that moment forward, it was just very special with just wonderful people. I am really, really looking forward to being a part of the Salt House Council team to grow the community. I'm super passionate about the shelter project, and I just know there's so many amazing things ahead for our community, and that together we can really do great things and make a difference. Thank you.
Such good stuff, right? Man, can you just see what a great team we have for our next fiscal year? So excited to work with these folks. And I hope that you also, just in their words that they shared, that you heard God speaking to you too. So I want to frame this experience with a final word from Scripture. It'll be our reading for today, and it's from Galatians 5. It's where Paul is writing. It's become a well-known passage to us. It's in that he names what we have come to call the fruits of the Spirit, the qualities that emerge in us when we live in the life of God, in the way of Jesus. And this word from Paul, it feels so vital right now. For us, first, as a community, as we are verbing together, as we're doing community today in our meeting, but then also as we live in this moment where it seems everything is becoming politicized. From whether to wear a mask or not, or whether we defund the police or not, there are all these ways in which things are becoming big questions of freedom. And what we hear from Paul about the fruits of the Spirit, what he's actually saying is that how we use our freedom determines if and how and when we live into these fruits, into the harvest of these qualities that can become ours, which is really something profound to think about in this way, that what we do with our freedom matters in this way. So just a word about this version. We're going to read the text. It's in the Message version, and the fruits of the Spirit in this version they don't use the same familiar words of love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. But those words are there at the end. They're just in different words and phrases instead, okay? So it's there. But friends, we get to hear this as community together. So listen to this. Here it is from Galatians 5. It is absolutely clear that God has called you to a free life. Just make sure that you don't use this freedom as an excuse to do whatever you want to do and destroy your freedom. Rather, use your freedom to serve one another in love. That's how freedom grows. For everything we know about God's word is summed up in a single sentence. Love others as you love yourself. That's an act of true freedom. My counsel is this: live freely, animated and motivated by God's Spirit. What happens when we live God's way? God brings gifts into our lives, much the same way that fruit appears in an orchard. Things like affection for others, exuberance about life, serenity. We develop a willingness to stick with things, a sense of compassion in the heart, and a conviction that a basic holiness permeates things and people. We find ourselves involved in loyal commitments, not needing to force our way in life, able to marshal and direct our energies wisely. Man, isn't that something? Something for us to hear in this moment that we're in our lives and in our world. As people are shouting at each other about their personal freedoms, how is it we are to use our freedom? Paul says, use your freedom to serve one another in love. That's how freedom grows. It doesn't grow by holding on tight to all that you have. Summed up in a single sentence, love others as you love yourself. That's an act of true freedom. Then living this way, God brings gifts, much like fruit appearing in an orchard. This is the life lived with Jesus and lived in community. Community is a verb, and belonging takes all of us. And as we do it in love, this is the kind of life we get to live into. This is the kind of community we are creating together at Salt House. This is the kind of life we hope to embody at Salt House in this year to come, which is what we get to vote for in our meeting in a moment. So in a few minutes at the end of our worship time, our council candidates will be up one more time just to pray for our community through this lens of freedom to love and growing into these fruits of the Spirit in the year to come. So that'll be a really special time that we'll get to have. But for now, we just get to hold all of this that we've heard and experienced, letting God speak to us as we transition into Holy Communion, As we do, we'll sing the Lord's Prayer together. Another way, when we pray this prayer, it's another way that we live and pray into God's kingdom here on earth and here in our community together. So let's do it. Amen. Amen.
Today our daily bread, forgive our sins.